So we're in. So thank you for inviting me today, Emma.
Well, thank you for coming in.
No, I really do appreciate this. So I have a little tradition at the beginning of the podcast, because you've been on the podcast before, but you came partway through, which was a bit of a different setup, because we were doing the world record.
Yes.
Podcast.
And congratulations.
Amazing. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, we managed to do it. 140 guests in one episode, over 16 hours.
How long did you sleep for after this?
Do you know what's strange? I thought I was going to be absolutely shattered and not be able and like go to sleep, and that would be it. But I wasn't actually able to sleep. I got home. I put my head on the pillow, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
My brain was so active. It was just going around in circles. I think I had an hour. and then I went for the next day. But before we get into it, 'cause I want to talk about why we're here today. I have a little tradition that we start with.
Yep.
So the little tradition is we do a little countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then we clap.
Okay.
And then we're in. So would you like to join me?
Yeah.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And that is the
Perfect.
beginning of the podcast. So normally I say welcome to the podcast, but no, you're welcoming me into your space today. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming. It's really nice to have you here and sort of show you what we do as well. So I think it's always nice when you're meeting someone and you're talking about local businesses to actually be able to experience that as well.
Yeah.
So this is actually why we have our showroom in the first place, because we love the fact that people can walk in here. Anyone, whether it's a corporate client or whether it's just an individual wanting to buy a bottle or a chocolate bar, and they can actually see, they can pick up the products. We have little tasters as well.
Nice.
So it's a very interactive experience, and that's what we love. And it also actually allows us to showcase other local businesses as well.
Right.
Because one of the things that we do, we specialise in local food and drink produce. But what we also do is we try and extend our use of local suppliers to everything that we do. So, for example, our signage was done by Business Signs and Graphics, who are a local company. When we got our carpet, we went to 3C, who are just over the road on Temple Fields. We had an amazing company who are based in Bishop Stortford, who actually focus on sustainable furniture. So this cupboard here was actually upcycled for us.
Wow.
So it's painted in our corporate colours, and they built it for us, and it's an old filing cabinet.
So you're really bringing in a sense of community within your business, aren't you?
Yeah, I think that we are so lucky in Harlow. We have a really strong community, and I think people forget that, and people don't necessarily recognise that. And working together with local businesses, with local charities, it is the way forward. Sometimes we've held events in Harlow, and people said, "Oh no, I don't want to have a stall there because I don't think I'll make enough money." And yet we find that actually, despite having a physical presence here, we go to an event that's held, say, at Red Church, and we actually sell better in some areas because local want to support local. And we love that, and we truly appreciate that as well. When we set up as a business, our goal was to champion local produce, but we wanted to sell nationally as well. But actually, what we've found is working with local businesses and doing their corporate gifting and their corporate hampers has actually worked better for us because we have that quick turnaround. So, for example, yesterday, a local insurance company, Cover My, who are based by Harlow Town Station, they're a big Harlow company. They needed a gifting hamper. They called us and they said, "Can we pop down?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely." 20 minutes later, they were here, and we had a hamper designed for them. It's printed we put ribbon with their company logo on, and that will be sent out to their client tomorrow.
Right.
Now, being able to do that and have that interaction is so much nicer than sort of getting a generic email, etc.
There's so much lost on that these days. In fact, I was touching on that with someone yesterday. I met with someone from the local council.
Yeah.
And they came to me and said, "Why aren't you engaging with us? We send you out a monthly newsletter, but you never get involved with anything. Why is that?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Because it's a newsletter. It's dead. There's no personal interaction there. There's no human element. It's we get so much of that now, don't we?
We do.
How many newsletters do I get in a month? Hundreds.
Yeah. And whilst I see the benefits, I do think there's that interactive experience. I mean, for example, we are members of an amazing local networking group, which has increased our business overall by around 80%.
Wow.
But what we also do is we hold a small networking event here every couple of months. Now, the networking that we do is paid. It's amazing. We appreciate as well that smaller businesses and those are setting up, and also people want to engage with other local businesses but don't have the funds to do it. They can't commit to a regular event. So every 3 months we hold a small networking event here. And we've actually attracted up to 80 local businesses coming in here. We open our bar. We have a private event space that people can actually use. So we open our bar, and it's just a chance to chat. There's no one who actually has to stand up and say, "This is my business." Which again,
so it's not a hard sell environment. You're not pushing products on it.
Exactly. And also, you can be at any stage of your business. You can be a charity. So we always, St Clair Hospice nearly always have a presence. Acuro, who are based over in Bishop Stortford, who do amazing work, they always have a presence because you never know who you're talking to. But then equally, we have bigger established businesses. Harlow Council often send a representative as well and they can actually talk about the business support that's available because there are free webinars. They run free events as well. So it's all about knowing what is available locally. So you can be a really small business and come along, and actually you never know who that connection is. You never know who someone might not need something, but when they say, if you're talking to them, and then next time, oh, actually, I met someone at a networking event. They're based just around the corner. Why not have a chat with them? It's all about locals. Championing local.
Well, why is that important to you as a business? Because it's so easy to sit back for a minute and go, I want to set up a business because I want to earn money and, I've got bills to pay. I want to grow something, I want to grow something. It's very easy to do that. But it sounds like you're doing something that's above and beyond that. You're doing this thing, this community, this outreach. But why is that important to you?
I think it's a difficult one. I think the community is so important, and I was really welcomed in the community when I moved here. I'm not local. I didn't grow up here, and everyone I met was so much more friendly. And you'd go into a shop, and people would actually engage with you, and it'd be really interactive. And then I saw the work of local charities. So my background is absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I actually worked in study abroad. So I worked with universities, bringing them to UK on the academic programmes. Now, obviously, COVID hit and I couldn't travel anymore. I spent a lot of time overseas and I couldn't do that. So eventually I was made redundant. And that was from a career that I'd been in for 18 years since I graduated university. And I was devastated. I didn't know what to do. So I set up Stort Valley, initially selling a range of spirits, which my cousin produces. We joined BNI, our networking group, to try and get some business for wholesale and for corporate, and it took off. But then our corporates wanted more. They didn't just want alcohol, they wanted chocolates. And I thought, well, I can go to a big generic local or national chocolate company. It's not special. There's not that sort of people. We want people to open, oh, wow, that's interesting. So we partnered with a local chocolatier, and then that grew and we started doing the hampers. And then we realised that there's so much local produce available. But then we started talking to, as we were doing events, we started talking to local charities. So we started engaging with St Clair Hospice. Then they founded the Corporate Partnership Network, which we became founder members of. So it all sort of snowballed from that. And I just think it's really nice to be able to do that. Yeah. We work with Red Church Brewery and we help alongside Acuro. Every year they do the Food and Drink Festival. And we set that up initially and then they took that over. And so it raises really valuable funds for a local charity. But actually being able to see where that money's going is so important.
So it sounds like on a business level as well, this is working. This connection is working for you. It's not like it's just you're doing something just to be nice. It sounds like it is profitable to work with community.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think people forget that. I think we've got so many businesses in Harlow that actually really do support local charities. And that's amazing. So you look at some of the work, you look at, for example, what a place we get a lot of information from is your Harlow. Michael does so much for the community and actually really pushes companies that are working with local charities and actually getting their name out there. And that's so good. You look at it, you're like, wow, these businesses are supporting Sinclair, they're supporting Cura, they're supporting all these different charities locally, and they're putting that money back into the community.
That's what happens, doesn't it? When you buy a local, it stays local, and it's like this machine that's churning around.
Exactly, and that's what we want. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with buying from your big high street supermarkets, but actually that's not making so much of a difference. There's not someone sitting in Cadbury's, for example, going, oh my goodness, someone's bought my chocolate bar, yay. Whereas we work with Tempered Chocolate, who are based in Malden. And gradually, when we first met them, I said to them, I said, look, I could never guarantee that I'm going to be ordering much from you. Yet now, we've ordered thousands of bars at a time. Now, I like to think that makes a difference to that business. That's a family-owned business. We had them one year, we actually had them working literally through the night, which was amazing. And they did it. I gave them sort of a 3-day, I was like, could I have 900 chocolate bars? Then an hour later, could I actually up that to 1,100? I think we ended up doing on one order 1,400 chocolate bars. Now, they went up their way. They hand delivered those for me because I needed them and I got them out for a client. And that has made me want to build that relationship with them. So we love talking to local businesses and local producers and actually building that relationship with them, because then they'll help us. Because we've become known a little bit for our last minute orders. Because if you said to me today, I would really like to put together a hamper, and I want it to have my branding on it, and I need to take it to someone later this afternoon, I can do that for you. I couldn't do it, but sometimes we actually get people. We had a brilliant local probate company, and I think they may have been on the World Record podcast, Lorello. I'm not sure, she was trying to come down. Anyway, so Lorello, who are based in Hannah's, and they've been supporters of us for a long time. And we ended up doing a large number of gift boxes for them. We did it with sort of a 5-6 day turnaround. And all of my producers came through for me. We had one drove down from Brinton with all of our produce. I wouldn't get that from a big brand.
No.
And
that personal element makes such a difference, doesn't it?
It does. And you want to know the story.
It makes a difference to the customers as well.
Definitely.
So, what kind of feedback do you get from your customers then when you're working with corporate? What do they say to you about this community thing that you're doing?
I think they say they love the fact that everything's local and that it's from small artisans, and that there's a story behind it. We want everyone, and we want our customers clients to actually be wowed when they open a box. We want to go, oh, they've really thought about that. They put together ideas. So one of our financial advisors, for example, who came in, LC Wealth Management, he is based in Bishop Stortford. Now, he came in and he tried so many of the products and said, do you know what, this is my favourite, and I actually think that my clients are going to really like this. So I want to incorporate this into our hampers. So he can then actually go back, and there's that whole cycle. And then he asked me about the producer. Then his clients then come back and say, oh, I really liked that. And it's a talk about. So then he notes that down. He might give them a gift for their birthday. So it's all kind of, it's that whole, it's that warm fuzzy feeling.
And that feeling trickles through, doesn't it? And so, for instance, when you came on the podcast with me, for the World Record podcast, you brought me a gift.
Yeah.
You brought me some cookies.
Yeah.
And you wrapped it in a nice little bow with my branding on it.
Yeah.
Now that changed the energy of the day for me. That wasn't just that, that was wonderful. It's wonderful first off to receive a gift, but to personalise it in that way, I now have kept that packaging. I've eaten the cookie.
You probably needed that after 16 hours.
The cookies are long gone, but the packaging I've kept.
Yeah.
And so now, if I'm thinking in the future, I want more branded products, I know where to go. Exactly. And I will keep your product.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah, and that is the thing. We don't want. There's so much waste as well. That you get a hamper, and what do you do with it? You get all this packaging, and you think, oh great, okay, it's another hamper box. Particularly in corporates, sometimes it gets sent to recycling. If you're lucky, it gets taken to a charity shop. With ours, we use sustainable packaging, so we use boxes, and we really focus on the branded ribbon. Rather than necessarily the fact that it's hamper. And so that sort of, it's just that element. So companies can put whatever writing they want on it, they can put whatever logos they want on it. And as you say, it is something that you keep because it's personalised. There is that psychological thing as well. Well, it's personalised, it's really custom. I don't want to throw it away. But also, we don't just put logos on it. So we're doing this actually up on here is going out as a thank you gift.
No.
So it's someone who has said, "Could you write? Thank you very much for your support." So we get people who come in for birthdays and say, "Oh, it's my mum's birthday. Can you write happy 70th birthday, mum? Love from." Now, if I was a person guessing that, I go, "Oh my goodness, I've got a personalised ribbon," and you put it somewhere and you keep it and you tie it around something. Yeah, exactly. So you keep it, and then also it is that memory of either the person or the company it's gifted to you.
Yeah.
And that's what we love.
Yeah, we do, and that feeling resonates. That feeling makes you come back as a customer. You know, I know exactly if I needed personalised products now. I know exactly where to come. If I wanted to give someone, if I had a guest on the podcast in the future, and I wanted to give them a guest for some involvement they had, I know where to come look at.
Exactly. I think as well,
and I won't forget easily.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with a lot of companies. You can easily forget. You can have a great service from a company, but when it's just the service without the feeling, you can just move on to someone else. But when you attach the feeling to it, that's when you remember.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think as well, for some of the small producers starting up, they don't, most of the companies that we work with don't have physical presence, so they don't have their own store. So the only way that they sell is online or at events. Now that makes it quite difficult for them because if you're buying, for example, one of our most viral products is the Kebab Club. Now the Kebab Club were on Audi's Next Big Thing. So they unfortunately didn't win it. They've got the most amazing product, but they went viral because of that. And they were selling, literally huge jars, and they were selling 48 jars at a time. But they didn't have any, they were doing that all mail order. So people were having to potentially pay for postage. People were having to wait that little bit longer. Whereas, interestingly, we're one of the few people that stock it locally. So we have people coming in here buying 24 jars at a time. Now, I love that because whilst that isn't a huge profit for me, that is 48 jars, 24 jars, however many that go for them, and then I can do another order, and it's getting their product, it's giving them sort of another outlet, and I really like that. And then we share it on social media.
What at a personal level do you like about that? What is it that's doing for you?
I think it's almost that warm fuzzy feeling that you're supporting local. We've always been, my husband and I have always been into supporting local. So even before we had the business, we would shop at local farmers markets, we'd go to farm shops, we'd get all our meat locally, whatever we could, we would get locally. And then when we had the business, we wanted to extend it to that. And we get approached so much by amazing national brands who might be based, there's a chocolatier, for example, who's based up in Liverpool, amazing products. But I don't have that connection with it, so I can't work with them because whilst it's a UK product, I can't just sort of say, "Oh, do me a favour, can you drop me around 50 sets?"
It doesn't fit with it doesn't fit with what your purpose is.
Exactly. And yet, when I phone up so many of these producers, say, "Oh, look, I really need these." If there's a problem with an order, for example, if something arrives broken, I can send a WhatsApp and say, "Hey, this has arrived." And it's about building that relationship with the producer as well. And I like to think that we are helping them as well.
You definitely are. You definitely are.
I love that.
I think when the internet came along, I think we saw a business opportunity in that we could maybe cut some corners. We could by cutting down the human connection, we could perhaps make some more money because we'll have more time to just work on the business side of things. But I think we're in a phase and an era now where we're realizing that doesn't quite work. That the internet has become this mass void of information and products to buy, and as a consumer, you only go for the big names and the big products. So everything local, everything community based is disappearing. So it's a time, I think, for this to research, for this to come back.
I completely agree, and I love that. I think there are just so many brilliant local producers. I mean, for example, did you know there's a pasta that's produced in Silverbridge? It's not even, it's just lower shipping, so it's Harlow. You've got like free range local meats that are made in charcuterie, in Hitchin. You've got all of these different things, and people don't know about them. And also, they want one place to buy them as well. And I think even farm shops now have become a little bit more commercialised. Often the meat section, for example, is all local, it's all their own meats, etc. But actually, a lot of the products that they sell, you'll go in there and they'll have pasta, and it'll be pasta from Italy. It's an artisan product. But to me, I don't want to go to a farm shop and buy that. I want to go to a farm shop and find a local gem of a producer. I want the cake that's been made by the local baker, and go, oh, that's really nice. I want it to be special. I think particularly with the increase in cost of living as well, is that where obviously smaller producers inevitably are more expensive, but then they also have that wow factor, and that's what you want.
So I want to know a little bit more about you and your history. We've touched on it a little bit of how this business started. So what is your background then? Where did you said you've shot locally?
Yeah.
But where is it that the business started for you?
I mean, it did start in Harlow. So we started here. We had a unit at Safe Store initially. I moved here in 2016. I think it was when my husband and I had a property in London, he had a property in Harlow. This is where he grew up, and obviously we sold my flat in London and moved out here whilst we looked for a place that was a joint house. And I was adamant that I wanted to be more in London. I'd been used to the 24/7 transport, being able to get everything any time of the day, loved it. And also my job involved a lot of socialising. So it was actually really nice being able to have night tubes and night buses. And can you tell I missed that bit? And so when we moved out here, we actually moved to Old Harlow because there's great transport connections there. And then I actually realised that there was so much more of a community here, and actually really liked it. And then so when COVID happened and when we set the business up, it was you couldn't travel, and there was no real reason to set it up anywhere other than Harlow. So that's actually how we started, and we've become a lot more part of the local community. So
that time that is a hard time for a lot of people. I'm finding this a lot on the podcast actually, as I speak to people and talk about their journeys. That moment of COVID gave an opportunity for something new to come out.
Yeah, definitely.
Can I tell you why that was?
Because I think people realised that sometimes it's a necessity. In my case, it was a little bit of necessity, and it was a little bit of a sort of, I thought it'd be nice to do. I was fortunate that if I'd have wanted to, I could have worked with my husband's company and done that, or I could have gone and done some charity work. Actually, obviously that wasn't available during COVID. And I admit, when I was made redundant, I was devastated. A career that you've built for 18 years.
And coming to a full stop.
And just so suddenly as well. It's mentally, that's really difficult. And I found that really hard, but I didn't know what to do. But then I thought, do you know what? I do want to do something. And actually the same day set Stort Valley up as getting the redundancy letter. And we started trading 6 weeks later with our first wholesale order, and it kind of grew from there. But I think people have done that because they've realised there's gaps in the market. They've also realised that they can have a better work-life balance. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved being in London. I loved what I did. But actually having a 5-minute commute to the office, that changes things so much. If I've got an appointment, I can say, oh, do you know what? I'm going to go and do that appointment, and it's easy to do. And I think people have realised that actually the value of family, so many people lost people during COVID, or weren't able to see their loved ones. And actually they've realised, do you know what, that's not what I want to do anymore. And I think there's so many good things that have come out of COVID people working from home more as well, being able to socialise a lot more locally, supporting locally.
Yeah, we realised what was important to us, I think.
Definitely, yeah, and sort of that time to reflect on things. And also, I think it was the local businesses that were going out their way.
Yes, it was. It
really was. Yeah.
Throughout the entire country, it was communities that got together that made a difference at that time.
Exactly. It was the time where you would queue for an hour to get into Tesco, but actually your local farm shop would allow you to send an order through an email and have it ready for you.
Yeah. And the local businesses were helping out with food banks.
Exactly.
And they were making sure the most vulnerable and the most at need were safe and protected.
Exactly. I mean, I remember the Orange Tree in Silversworth. We've worked with that. We've gone there personally for years, and they set up a little farm shop they sort of built a farm shop almost. But then what they were doing is they were saying, come to us. Also, if you're vulnerable or you're shielding or you're older and you can't get out, talk to us, send us a message, and we'll come and deliver. They didn't have to do that. But
and the bigger companies didn't.
No,
the bigger companies,
exactly.
They may have done some gestures of what they could do, but actually they couldn't do the things community could.
No, and it completely understandable. But it was those local businesses. There were all the volunteers who were going and picking up things and making sure that elderly people were okay. Because I think we were really, the younger generation of people, in a way, fortunate because we could have that hour of exercise a day. We could do a lot more. Someone who's a lot older and has been used to having that interaction with people, to suddenly take that away, it literally killed people because it wasn't COVID. It was they couldn't go out, they couldn't see their friends. And my husband's nan, she was older, and she couldn't understand what was going on. She was starting to get dementia as well, but she couldn't understand, why can't I see my friends? Why can't you come round and visit me?
And I have 2 young children, and they both struggled with the understanding of it. And I think the ramifications of COVID are ongoing. It's still. I don't think we've seen the full effect with the younger generation.
Exactly.
So I personally believe it's our responsibility, our generation, the ones in the middle, to now look after that younger generation and to make sure we limit that impact as much as possible. And even if we're doing that through things like our business, through recognising the things that went well during that time, the things that were important to us as human beings.
Exactly.
You know, because I think the world was forgetting that. It was getting so wrapped up in this consumerism, and I hope that we can make that echo for longer. The positive.
Exactly. And I think that's so important to take away. I mean, you just look at some of the things that have come locally, and also hopefully as well, people now appreciating the outdoors a little bit more as well.
You see a lot more people walking and you see a lot more people getting involved with community events. And that was kind of dying away a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned, we live in Old Harlow, and we had a street party, and we've actually now kept that street party going.
Wow.
So last year we were the only street in Harlow to request a closure for the coronation.
Wow.
I think it was the coronation, or it might have been the King's birthday that we did it.
Right,
but we've done so many.
You've done something every
year, and we're going to do it again this year. But that actually gets everyone out onto the street. So we close off our street. We all bring out food. We all engage with each other. We actually
connecting with your neighbours. You know.
Do you know what? Our neighbours are some of our best friends.
Wow.
So much so that my husband's childhood best friend, they grew up on the same street together in Harlow. It's gone full circle because in May last year, he actually bought a house 3 doors down from us because he loved our road so much.
Yes.
And he said there's so much of community feel, and he loved the style, etc. So that's just
that shows how it trickles back into the business. You know, you're bumping up the property value because there's a community of people there.
Exactly. And it's amazing. and through like our sort of street parties, we have a beer machine that we can actually rent out, so people can get kegs, and they can do it for local events, etc. And they can do like pour your own pints. So what we do is we take it home with us that weekend, and all of the neighbours club together, and they buy a keg. And then whatever extra goes in, so donate what you want situation, and then we actually every year we end up getting over what the cake costs, so we donate that to St Clair.
Amazing.
Yeah, or to a local charity. So actually and we say, look, we're going to take what the cake cost, and then any extra goes back into the community. And that's just really nice. And that's something that, again, everyone's just out there, they're smiling. We've had, touched wood, the past 2 years, we've had amazing weather for it. Hopefully this year will be as well. But yeah, and I think there needs to be more of that.
There does. And it's really nice to hear that is happening.
Yeah.
That there is a community that you're still working on there as well.
Definitely. And we're all there to support each other. And that's what's nice as well. And I think we did that a lot more. We were all friends, but I think COVID did bring us together that so much more, that you couldn't just drive across town and go and do a walk with your friends. So you walked with your neighbours. You had like.
And how is that improving your just general quality of life then?
Oh, definitely. It's improving it massively, because I think you naturally sort of. You have that relationship. So and then also it has helped us in the business, because they've known people or they've talked to people. And it's kind of, again, it's that sort of snowball effect.
They say, I know Emma does this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or they've shared something on their social media, and they go, oh, he's the guy who does that. Yeah. And it works two ways. We really appreciate that support. And so one of our neighbours, for example, worked for a big local company, and spoke to them, and we did a proposal for their corporate gifting, not their corporate gifting, actually, for some of their staff appreciation. So we now do some of their staff appreciation gifts, and we send off, so 1 month we sent off a load of chocolate bars for all their staff, and then this month they're doing biscuits, which are going to all their different teams. And that's really nice as well, because that's something that then local people are getting local products, and they're also getting that the big businesses can do that. That's staff appreciation a lot more now. So actually being able to do it through local businesses, whether that's from us, whether that's going to Dorrington's and getting cakes, it still is keeping that money and that support local. And that really, I do believe, is key. And also you get better quality as well.
Yeah.
I think you go to Dorrington's. Dorrington's do the best donuts in the world.
Oh, they're amazing. They're an amazing local.
Oh, they are, aren't they?
I'm not going to mention the big brands, but some of the big coffee shop names. But it is so much nicer, the products that you get there, and also the atmosphere. I recently went into a big multinational corporation coffee shop recently and asked for a cappuccino, and my cappuccino was just placed in front of me. And there was the member of staff had no expression. Yeah. No, there you go, thank you. But how did that? None of that. It was just, there's your coffee. Yeah. And I walked out just feeling like, but like the rest, However, go into Dorrington's, and the ladies in there are always so friendly.
So smiling and just.
And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but the ones near where I live, they know my name. And they say, hello Martin, how are you today? And that makes me want to go back. That makes me want to spend more money in there over the big national. Yeah.
It's like my family are local. So when we started getting, when we go around there, we'd get, for our nephews, we'd always get Dorrington's donuts. And it's become this thing. And they're like, have you got the donuts? And it's a special thing. And I love going in there. Although there is a debate in our household of which one's the better one, because I like the custard ones. My husband's like, you can't have custard.
No, I do love a custard donut.
I know. Yeah, what I really like about the Dorrington's ones is that they have custard and jam.
Yes, they do, don't they?
So you're not just getting the full custard, you're getting a
bit of both. Yeah. You're getting a best of both.
Exactly. But no, my husband's just like, no, you can't mess with a donut.
Yeah, there's a traditionalist out there, but no, I like to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just so nice that someone who doesn't even live anywhere, they live like sort of 70 miles away, and they know Dorrington's donuts, and they're like, can we have the donuts? So,
yeah. And that's how that brand will expand.
Exactly.
Because those young children, they're going to grow up
Yeah.
And they're going to remember that brand.
Yeah.
And then if say, Dorringtons want an opportunity to move out, they're already going to have customer bases. You know, a lot of the stuff that I do is in the world of theatre, and I was actually talking to some actors yesterday about how you never know who you're affecting with the work that you do and how that's going to trickle on.
Exactly.
How that's going to filter through to their life. Like, you even have to just look at your own life and think of some of the small impacts people have made on you and how that filters through within life.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think the arts have got such an important role to play as well. I mean, I remember as a child, we were based in London, and we used to go to the Polka Children's Theatre in Wimbledon, and we always used to go. One of the things, my sister's profoundly deaf, so theatre for her, she absolutely loved it, but it was really, really difficult because obviously she couldn't follow because she'd lip read. And so the Polka would always provide scripts for her. So she'd have a script to read in advance. And that was just, and to this day, even when I worked, one of the things that we used to do in my old job was we used to run theatre programmes for big American universities that had very strong theatre majors. And I would actually send them to the Polka to actually talk to them about their work and about how they've grown their reputation. Because for me, that has such a memory of growing up. Yet when we went to see Avenue Q when she was a lot older, they wouldn't give us a script. And it was just so frustrating that they didn't have a caption performance. And she really wanted to see it, and she was.
It's not being inclusive. Yeah. By not being inclusive, you are actually excluding.
Exactly, and also, if anyone ever says, sort of, "Oh, I'm taking my kids to theatre," or it's like, "Oh, we used to go to Polka," and I mean that was like literally when I was sort of 5, 6 years old. I have so many memories. I had this really cool cafe, and I mean now it's standard, but they had a train in it, and you sit in the carriages in the train, and I loved that, and that was so much fun. And I just think the arts, there's so many just amazing local theatres as well that people can go to, and actually you're supporting local. A lot of the people who are performing in the productions, they're not doing it for money, they're doing it because they love theatre, they're doing it, and that is so nice.
Yeah.
And
how do you think the arts then inform what you're doing within your business?
A difficult one because I don't necessarily know.
You can't always quantify, can you? And that's often why the arts get pushed down. As you know, it's being taken away from school. The last 10 years, they're stripping back on art fundings for schools and children to learn about the arts. Because it can't be measured. Yeah, that's the difficult thing with it. So that's why I asked that question. It's a really hard question to answer.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't actually know.
We all consume. It's something we all consume. We enjoy it on different levels, but we can't measure it and go, this is what it's done. We may be able to find moments in our lives, like you were talking about with your sister, like that has shown you about the inclusivity.
Exactly, and that's something that we try and do, is we try and be very inclusive. So with our hampers, everything is pretty much customised. So we don't have set packages. We work with budgets. So if someone said to me, I've got £25 to spend, I'd say, well, actually, for £25 you can do this, or for £30 you can do this.
And so do you think you would have come up with that realisation had there not been this? Do you know what I'm saying? If there hadn't been there.
But what I may not have actually done is not necessarily theatre, but just generally sort of awareness of the art and sort of media, etc., is the catering for dietary requirements. So we can do completely vegan hampers, we can do gluten-free hampers, we can do dairy-free hampers, because actually for someone who's a vegan or has a dietary requirement or an allergy in particular, it's really difficult.
Yes.
And it's not nice to get something to not able to be included. I mean, I think that almost in a way does stem from the arts, because I know how my sister felt when she couldn't be included. And how difficult that was for her to go to a theatre production and literally not know what was going on and not be able to hear it, not be able to experience it like I was experiencing it. And so I wanted to make sure that some of the stuff that we were doing is inclusive, and we're not perfect. I certainly won't say we're perfect.
No, I think we learn as we go along.
Definitely.
And like I say, a lot of my work is within the world of theatre, and actually, I've learned something really important from you today. Like I try to be as inclusive as possible, And last year I got some funding to have some iPads in a show, where it could have the text come up on the iPad.
Amazing.
Now, whilst you say amazing, I can't afford to continue doing that without funding, and the funding's becoming less and less. Now, so I'm kind of like, oh well, I can't be inclusive to the people that need that. But actually, you've given me a really great example. If I could just give them a script.
Yeah.
If I can't afford iPads, a script would do just fine.
And some of it, so it depends. So London theatres now are realising that more, and because also a captioned performance, they can. I appreciate the costing involved in a captioned performance or an audio described performance. It's really expensive to do. Completely understand. But actually, what they can do is they can have. They will sometimes do they will provide a script. But what my sister has to do is she'll have to go there on the day, get the script, because she only has it for a certain period of time, which I completely understand that there are people who are unfortunately dishonest and are going to go out there and just go, right, I'm going to take the script and plagiarise it, or I'm going to sell it as But
and
even
there's potential rights issues as well.
Exactly.
There's a lot of shows that run in places like the West End where the rights aren't available to buy a script.
Exactly.
And don't want the writer doesn't want it in the public domain.
Completely. So, but even that that's allowing some accessibility, and I think as well with social media, with podcasts, etc. Even things that we don't really think about, like subtitling.
Yeah. It's interesting we've gone here with your sister, because my sister is a captioner. That's my sister's job, is to be a captioner. It's really quite interesting how we've gone to this place talking about her sister, and it is my sister's job to actually support that.
Yeah, and I do think that it makes such a difference for her. It really, really does. And she's actually in the field of journalism, and when she was young, we were both born in the 80s, and completely going off track. But it wasn't. But deaf children weren't encouraged to speak, and they weren't necessarily thought to have. They were thought to be below average intelligence, and my mum always tells this story that she went to a consultant and she was talking, and she said, well, my daughter's going to learn to talk, and she's going to learn to read and write. She's going to be just as every other child would be. And this consultant, and she said she's going to read Shakespeare one day. And he said, oh, maybe aim for the sun rather than Shakespeare. And my sister actually studied English literature at university, so obviously did end up reading Shakespeare. My mum wrote to that consultant when she graduated university and said, my daughter would never read Shakespeare, would only read The Sun. I don't think she's ever picked up a copy of The Sun, but she has picked up Shakespeare. Those
naysayers, those people that like to put you in your place, or even worse, put your children in their place. It's them words can be very impactful. Them words can you give a lot of weight to that negativity.
Absolutely.
But it is important that we fight against that when we know better.
Definitely. And I just think those are the things that just have the difference. And there are, I mean, my parents gave up a lot to support my sister, and they ensured that she went to mainstream school rather than to a school specifically for the deaf. Things like that just make so much of a difference. And I think I certainly saw that in the inclusivity. One of the things that I know that I don't do as well that I should do is the use, for example, of descriptions when I'm doing social media. And I will be honest, it is a time thing. So I don't necessarily always have time, and I should, because there might be someone who's blind who actually can't see that I'm posting a picture of a hamper. And so you're supposed to put, or you're not supposed to, but a way to include people who are blind is actually writing a little description below your social media post. And I don't do that enough.
That's really, again, it's wonderful how much I'm getting from this, I'm learning from this as well. That's something that I'd not considered, I had considered that podcasts is very accessible to the blind. It is something that, I think all of us enjoy it, podcast. But we have these conversations on a podcast that are quite descriptive within themselves, and I can imagine that is beneficial for the blind to get entertainment and information from a podcast. But everything I'm doing outside of the podcast, I hadn't considered that at all.
Yeah.
So nothing I do on social media considers the blind. So what should I be looking to do then?
Do you know what? I hadn't even realised it so much until I read a social media post. It was actually on LinkedIn. A few years ago, we were recognised as F Entrepreneur. F Entrepreneur is an absolutely amazing award and it's sort of recognition, and it's through Small Business Britain. And you apply, you fill in the form, and you're recognised as one of the most inspirational female entrepreneurs in the UK for that year. And they change every year, but they have some incredible women on there. And one of the ladies who was recognised a few years back is a lady who is blind, and she specialises in working with businesses to actually improve their accessibility. And she wrote a very, very good post on LinkedIn about how little changes can make that difference. And I can't remember all of the things off the top of my head, but I really did take it on board. And I actually said to her, I said, do you know what? I hadn't thought of these. I was very much focused on the deaf accessibility and how I could make it more accessible for someone like my sister, but I hadn't thought that, for example, the bottles that we have are stunning. So they've got beautiful designs on them. I don't ever describe that when I'm putting on social media. And even just that one line can make a difference. So that was one thing that she sort of said that was really big, was actually making a little description of something. And I think, I'm sort of almost thinking back to what we've been talking about. I think actually, in a way, and I probably would be corrected by someone who is blind, that actually there's not a huge amount extra that you could add onto what we've talked about that would necessarily make it really massively extra accessible for someone who's visually impaired.
But that small thing, maybe a small introduction.
I'm here today in Stort Valley Gifting, and we're surrounded by the beautiful bottles on the shelves, and almost a little description of where you are, if you're somewhere different to outside. That would probably help them to set the scene a little bit more.
And even your customers that are not blind, that you work for as well.
Exactly. Because sometimes you listen to a podcast. And obviously you record it as well, so people can actually watch it. But not everyone does do that. You have it on in the background, and actually, so it's those visual things, describing things, just make so much of a difference. And I think as well, obviously,
and the way that we describe things as well. I talked about when I came in here, it was welcoming in here. It had a nice atmosphere, but I didn't describe the actual setup. We haven't talked through that. So let's take it from your perspective then. You tell me about this place. Your open. Are we going to call this a shop? How do you present it?
Call it a showroom.
Showroom, I agree.
Yeah, because it was never meant to be a shop. We do get people coming in, and we love the fact that people walk in off the street and come in and buy an individual.
Your setups to do that.
Exactly. But we wanted this to be somewhere that we could show our corporate clients everything that we offer. So, but I also wanted it to look pretty. And my husband probably sincerely regrets telling me, go look at shelving online and see what you like. Because I went and looked at shelving online and of course chose the most expensive options. And I said, look, this is beautiful. And we got a quote for it, and it was something like £4,000 to do. So the shelving that I liked was pipework. And sort of all kind of very rustic looking, but sophisticated rustic, if that makes sense.
It all steampunk, it reminds me of. Like the side of steampunk, that kind of vibe to it.
So what we actually did, rather than spend £4,000 on getting someone in to do it, I didn't. I had absolutely no involvement apart from finding it.
That was perhaps the most important part.
Exactly. My husband and some of our team went out and they worked out how they could make these shelves. Now, it took them a long time, and we now fully know how they... because the labour that goes into them. And obviously they would have probably had, if we'd have done it, they would have had professional cutters. Whereas my husband was sitting there literally sawing them. So we've got loads of copper piping. They were all cut by hand. And interestingly, we originally were looking at proper wood shelving, and then we happened to go to a local store and they were selling off a load of laminate flooring, and it was reduced because there were some with scratches on, etc. Brilliant.
But they were made with love, and they were made by hand. And maybe I'm even thinking that reinforces what you're doing here in the business, that you're creating this atmosphere that was hand built.
Yeah, exactly. They're not perfect. They're not perfect at all. They, like, some of them sort of got a slight little bend in them, but that's what we love.
But that imperfection adds.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the shelving that we have, and then we have on the shelving we've got an array of different local produce. So all of the stuff that we have on here is produced in Herts or Essex, and it really ranges. So we go out there and we try and find all different producers. What we don't do is we don't duplicate as well. So
once you found a product with one supplier, that's it.
Yeah. So we might take something that's very different. So, for example, we have our chocolate bars, which are produced by Tempered Chocolate, who are based up in Malden. But we also work with a baker, Cupcake Daisy, who's based in Chelmsford, and she does chocolate for us, but in a different way. And it's very much more bespoke because she's a smaller producer, and she also does these incredible Florentines for us at Christmas that sell out. They fly out the door. She does hot chocolate discs for us and things like that. So different things to how Tempered works, and it doesn't conflict at all. So we've got mayonnaise, which is that's from Tring. Our sparkling wine is from Haddams. The other one is from Chelmsford. We've got Braintree, the pickles and stuff. Kebab Club marinades, which so many people know. They just, as I say, we have people coming in.
It's almost like a trophy wall of local produce.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's kind of like the vibe that I'm getting here. It's the cream of the crop. It's the best of local suppliers.
Exactly.
All in one location, all in one place.
And we try and go for, I don't know whether you've heard of the Great Taste Awards. So the Great Taste Awards are, they were set up by the Guild of Fine Foods, and they are really the highest accolade a food producer can get. And they are, in a way, sometimes it's a really expensive process to go through. So small producers can't always afford it because you have to send off lots of samples, you have to actually pay to enter the awards. But they're almost the Michelin star of the food producer world. Right. And actually we've got, I think it was our last count, we had, I think it was 15 producers that actually, in our range, that actually have a Great Taste Award. It may not necessarily be for the product that we sell, but it's one of the products. And I love that. And it's so nice for them to be recognised as well. And it does also show our customers that we're going for a higher end product. Because one of the struggles that we sometimes have and is actually getting people to use, the companies to use a local hamper company rather than using a national one. And that's actually really difficult. And I remember an accounting firm, and the office manager was very, very keen to use us. And she went to her boss, and her boss said, I'm all for supporting local, but let's go with John Lewis again this year. John Lewis is great. I love John Lewis. But that really stung in a way, because I'm thinking,
it's contradictory.
Exactly. I'm all for supporting local. Because yes, John Lewis they can do a cheaper because they've got that buying power. We don't have that buying power. We price our stuff so fairly. We actually charge the retail price of every item that goes into a box, and then we charge a boxing fee. That means that you can have a hamper that is stuffed full of things for a lower price than you could from some places. And we also have some companies don't see us as, I'm doing the sort of inverted commas here, a real business, because there are small hamper companies that operate from a kitchen table, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But we are a business. If you said to me, I want 500 hampers sent out, I can do that. products. We have a team. We have that. But it's actually trying to get some of the bigger local companies to subscribe to that and to find us as well, because you've got your Fortnum and Mason, you've got your Hamster.com, you've got these huge brands. They have almost unlimited budgets to push into SEO, marketing, brochures, etc. I don't have that.
No.
So it's really
that's kind of what my hope is with what we're doing here. Through these conversations, through us discussing this, and people listening in, they can get a deeper understanding of why your business is important to their business. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what we really appreciate you coming in and doing this with us today. And I love what you're doing. And when we sort of saw that you're doing the World Record Challenge, some of the people that you had on as well, I was looking through the list.
Such a variety.
And just like some local charities and that I'd never heard of. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Actually, that's something that we already have charities to work with, but actually I can recommend them to someone, or I'm going to know about them in the future. And I love that.
Yeah.
Because it's how do you find out about things these days? Years ago, you had your yellow pages, you had your local newspapers that were actually physical as well. People used to read them all the time. Now, whilst we've got some great resources online, people don't always see every single article that your Harlow. So there could be.
But it's because of the push from the big corporations like the John Lewis that have got unlimited budgets. They can push their ads above anything that you're able to share.
Yeah, exactly. So we actually don't do. Obviously we have all our SEO and working on rebuilding our website at the moment. But we don't do Google ads. We don't do Facebook ads, because it would be impossible for us to get to the top and to get read by. So for us, actually, our key way of getting our name out there is networking.
Yes.
And as I said, through the free networking events, even if we don't get business from it, but we go to our regular networking events.
The human connection.
Yeah, that human connection. And we tell people, and it does resonate. People go, oh, wow. And
that's why my podcast is growing.
Yeah.
For a human connection.
Exactly.
It wouldn't grow. Like some people said to me, "Oh, it'll be easier if you do this like over Zoom." And I do a couple of them over Zoom where I particularly want to reach out to someone that's in the United States or Scotland or something that we're not going to have an opportunity to meet. But where I can meet in person, that connection always trickles onto something else and something often bigger to the next step, to the next phase.
And that's what's so nice. Until I saw the world record attempts being advertised, I hadn't heard of it.
Of course not.
And now I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And actually listened to some of the podcasts. And that's something, that is another person. And then I might say to someone else, did you know that there's actually a local podcast? Because I don't think we have that many local podcasts. I'm probably going to get corrected here. And there'll be like loads of people doing them. But how do you get your name out there? How do you get local people? It is the working with the local charities, working with the local community, having people on there, and then actually sharing it.
And going into, for me, it was going into other communities as well. So a big turning point for me last year was going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and I met hundreds of people there. And that's then, and I noticed, if you look, I try not to look at the statistics too much, but when I did look at the statistics, a month after the Edinburgh Fringe, my listenership quadrupled in a month.
Yeah.
Through that human connection. It didn't happen just from me putting stuff out there online. It happened through me meeting.
Yeah. People buy into people. That's the thing. And also with smaller organisations, with things like podcasts, it's about that service and customer service as well. And the way that you engage with people. Going out of your way to support people, and the fact that you come here today and doing this.
Well, I love what you're doing. So it was impossible. With this, I'm following my curiosity and trying to support things that I can see that there's a human benefit here, not just a business benefit. So I want to support. And if that is just a conversation, this, like I say, I've learned a lot from this conversation today. So.
Exactly. And you've learned that there's local things out there that you probably didn't know existed. And that's what you want.
And I'm going to come to you as a customer as well in the future. When I'm at a point that I'm, when I'm successful and I'm bringing listeners, and I want, thank you, and I appreciate that. But when I'm at that point that there's, there's the sustainable income is there from this, and I can give my guests a gift.
Exactly.
I'm choosing you to do that service for.
And that's really nice because that is, we always say like the biscuits, for example, they're not an expensive product.
No.
But actually putting that little ribbon changes it, as you said, completely. But people are going to be like, oh my goodness, that's such a cool thing.
So what would you recommend to me so I want to gift my guests. I appreciate all my guests sitting down with me and coming on and sharing that. The value of that is great and vast. But and I always try and make the effort to be appreciative. But what could I gift them then? What would you recommend me as a starting point?
Yeah. So I would say there's a few products that would be really good starting points. A chocolate bar, because everyone loves their chocolate.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can also tailor that because you can do ones. You could actually use a completely neutral chocolate bar. So we do a range. We've got 16 in the 10 range, but 4 of them, are vegan and gluten free.
Okay.
So if you had someone, I
don't always know my guest. In fact, I often don't know my guest until the day that I do the podcast.
So actually, one of those would be really good with a nice little ribbon on those, or the biscuits. They are really, really popular, and even if someone does have a dietary requirement, they've always got someone to gift them to. So I did. That's a really nice one. And we also have little cake bars. So we do like a little Rocky Road one. We have flapjacks. We haven't actually got them on the shelf. We get some more in. We do a local crisp. So local crisps that are, again, they're vegan and they're gluten free. So they're a really good one. Bag of crisps. Everyone loves crisps. And we also have pumpkin seeds, which
are again something you need.
Exactly. They're vegan. They're gluten free. So those are the kind of things, and they don't come out expensive. All of those suggestions, nothing that I've suggested comes in over £6, including that, and a lot of them are lower.
And the value for that for me to hand that gratitude physically over to someone could be 10 times that.
Exactly. And also I think what's nice is we don't have that minimum order quantity. So if you said to me, I want one at a time, that is absolutely fine. That's not going to make any difference to me doing one or doing 50. And some people say, oh, well, I'm only going to be a small customer. But do you know what? That small customer doesn't make a difference whether someone's spending £10 with us or whether they're spending £10,000 with us. They're still a customer. They should still have that experience. And you don't know where that customer's going to grow.
No, exactly.
You might actually get this huge contract in the future. And
it starts off with a chocolate bar. It becomes 10 hampers a year.
Someone on your podcast then says, oh my goodness, I love that. And you say, well, actually, it's a local company. Did you know that they exist? And they do corporate. Oh, well, actually, my company does corporate gifting, and we send out 200 hampers a year at Christmas. I get that business. That alone.
The trickle effect.
Exactly, it really is. And that's actually how some of our clients have materialised. One of our big clients was, I went to a wedding fair. And I was chatting to them, and it was a terrible wedding fair. We stopped because we can do the personalised ribbon. We thought it might work for favours, etc. We've never done that, which is such a shame because we'd love to, but we didn't. Anyway, so I went to this wedding fair. I stood there all day, and I was thinking, this is such a waste of time. Anyway, at the very, very end, I went up and started talking to someone, and she said to me, and I said, well, we do anything. We put the logos on the bush. That's interesting. My company does that. And I said, all right. And I said, well, look, here are my details. Contact me. And I didn't even know her name. I knew her name. I didn't know the name of the company, and I didn't know her surname. So I was like, okay. I was thinking, how can I get in contact with them? I tried, and I couldn't work out who this company was. But do you know what? 2 months later, that company came to us. And for the past 2 Christmases, they've been my biggest client.
Amazing. It's such an important message.
Yeah. And I didn't dream of that. And she actually
you don't know where things are going to take you.
Yeah.
I'm a strong believer in that. Yeah, once you start putting yourself out there in the world, you might not necessarily know the direction that it's going to take you.
Yeah.
But you are going to go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope that as a business we grow and that we work with more businesses locally and that we have people coming in and just knowing what we do and supporting all the local producers that we do and that we work with. That is what we want. Ultimately, we are a business. We are here to make money, but we want to do that in a nice way, and we want to be able to give back wherever we can as well. And I
think this, it sounds to me like this philosophy is really supporting you.
It does, and I think that's really nice because businesses are realising that corporate social responsibility is such a big thing nowadays, and it should be a part of so many businesses. I think that smaller businesses do find it a lot more difficult because they don't have that unlimited funds. And whilst it's nice because you get a bit of tax break if you're doing gifting to like for example to a charity, etc., you have to have the funds to be able to do that in the first place.
Yeah.
And when you're starting up, I will be honest, when we first started up, we didn't really have the money to do a regular donation to Sinclair, but we actually did it.
Yes, yeah. I think you find a way.
Exactly.
You've got something that you want to do.
And we said because do you know what? Everyone in this town knows someone who has been helped by Sinclair Hospice. And with Acuro, for example, we couldn't give a financial donation, but we helped them. We hosted a tasting event for them, and we charged a very low fee just to cover our costs, and then they took the rest of the profit. So those kind of things. If we can't necessarily donate funds, we try and help out in the way that we can, even if it's shouting about something. Yeah. Like it's going along.
Money isn't the only thing that makes this work go around.
Exactly. It really isn't. No. Like the voluntary work. The gentleman that was on the podcast after me, he was a volunteer at Sinclair. He was saying how he started volunteering there because of losing his wife. And those are the people in the community that really are helping, and companies can do that as well. And I know that there are a lot of companies who do that. But even just giving back that time, a day of going in, painting something for them, just something that makes a difference that we may not even think of. There are just so many ways to work with local charities, and you just don't necessarily realise it. And I think that's what's so nice about talking to people and actually engaging with the community, and you realise that. The Hearts and Essex Community Farm, that's an amazing resource, and I love the work that they do. And years ago when we had chickens, they were doing an afternoon tea, and we donated all the eggs for them from our chickens for them to make all the cakes. And that was before we had the business. But I thought that's just a nice way that. And then we went along to the afternoon tea, so we bought the tickets and those kind of things. And you've just got that. It's just nice to be able to do, isn't it?
And it goes back to that quality of life, doesn't it? It's not all about business, is it?
No, it's not. It really isn't.
And I think the culture kind of got wrapped up in that for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, yes, this opportunity, we brought up COVID earlier, this opportunity for pause that we had for reflection and finding community is kind of bringing us out of that.
Definitely.
So yeah, this has been a wonderful conversation.
I've really enjoyed it.
I really appreciate you sharing your journey with me. But before we wrap this up, I'd like to know. I want to know where you see your business going. Is it staying at this kind of level with just helping the local community, or where are we going next?
We would like to expand in terms of the businesses that we work with, and also the year-round business that we have. So people, I think of gifting at Christmas. But actually, there's so much more that you can do throughout the year. So we work with local businesses on prize draws, for example. So they'll put together a prize draw hamper. We have a couple of local companies who do this spotted competition. If you spot their van out on the road and post it on socials, they get entered into a prize draw. So we want to build those ones, but we want to work. We're not going to, if a local national company, we love working with national companies as well. We do have several we work with who we've never met. But I love working with local businesses. I love the ones that kind of say to me, I want a hamper now to send it out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I really like. So actually, we would like to see ourselves sending out more for Herts and Essex-based businesses, and working more on that side.
Wonderful. I look forward to watching your journey.
Thank you.
And I will use your business as the future as my business kind of grows. And yeah, I will come to you for your services. There's a way to say thank you to my guests and customers, and whatever the future brings.
Thank you. And that's what we really appreciate. We really appreciate that support.
Wonderful. So just last question then. Have you got any advice for anyone that wants to start a business? They've listened to your philosophy, they've listened to your ideas, and they're like, I like this way of living. I wish my business was more like this. That it wasn't just all corporate and business and numbers and money, that it was about community. What would you say to them?
I'd say go for it, but also think about your direction, and don't be scared if your direction really changes. When we first set up, we had a business plan, and that business plan didn't work out. I'll be honest. We focused a lot on events at the start, and then as COVID ended and people went back to work, and they could travel. They weren't going to local events so much. So things that were very profitable for us were then a loss. And that's quite scary. But also, I would say, make sure that you cost your time as well. That you need to value your time and what you're putting into it. That, yes, you've got your cost of sales and you've got your cost of your product or whatever, but value what you're doing. And when you're starting up, you're not necessarily going to be making profits. You need to think about that long term. So when we used to cost an event, for example, people would always think we were picky if we didn't do an event. But what we used to do is we used to have a team. So we used to have a team that would go to the events and help out with the events. But we would cost in mileage. We would cost in, obviously, the cost of the event. We would put all of the staff in. We never paid our staff minimum wage. They always got real living wage. But they got it from the moment they arrived at the office to the moment they returned. Now, an event might be 3 hours, but actually you have to be there 2 hours before and you have to drive there. So you could be paying someone for 3 hours before until the moment they arrive. We also cost in the time it took to load the van, credit card fees, all of those things. I think some people, when they start up businesses, forget about those elements. Your insurance. So look at those. And ultimately, at the beginning, yes, you're going to be doing events that don't turn a profit. And you have to factor it in as marketing. But actually, in the long run, if you want to focus on that, you need to make sure
it's sustainability.
Exactly.
There's building the business. There's making the business exist. And that takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of input from yourself. But to keep the business going, you need the income to come
Exactly. And make the most of opportunities and don't be scared to talk to people as well. I think for us, as I said, networking has accounted for around 80% of our business. But networking is scary. It's really scary to go into a room, particularly when you're doing structured networking, actually talk to people and stand up and say, my business does this. But actually have the confidence in your business. Have the confidence to talk to people.
Have the confidence in yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a hard thing. It's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. But just remember that you've set this business up for a reason, and you want it to succeed.
Yeah.
And there is likely a market out there for it. If you've thought about it, you've gone through it, you've looked at your business plans, you've looked at that, then go for it. So that would be what I would say.
Well, I've taken a lot of that on personally, everything that you've said today. Like I say, I've learned a lot from you today, Emma. And I truly appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. I really appreciate you coming in.
Well, thank you for inviting me here today. Before we say goodbye then, where does anyone find out about you? Where do you find out about Valley Gifting?
Social media. We tend to actually post more on social media than we do on our website. Our website, we call it more of an informational. So www.stortvalleygifting.co.uk. Or pop in and visit us. We're at 5 West Place. We're in Harlow. We've got free parking outside. We're open 5 days a week, sometimes 6. Or just drop us a message via our website. Connect.
Exactly, connect.
So
Wonderful. And that's an important message from this today. Connect.
Yeah.
Community.
Exactly.
Networking. That's how we grow.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emma. And if anyone has been watching or listening, we appreciate you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Thank you. Goodbye.